Now, I know my nose is a little red, but don't be calling me no Rudolph. I'll fight you. This is part 2 of how to start a song, so if you haven't seen part 1, make sure you go over and check it out. I referred to quite a bit of material in that video. The link is in the description. What's going on? It's your boy THECORE, and if you don't know how to say it, you know how to spell it, and I'm your daily ghostwriter. So now that you have a detailed roadmap of roadmap, sir. Now that you have a detailed roadmap of what it is that your song is about, it is now time to put pen to paper, finger to screen, and fingers to hand to keyboard or whatever. For my musicians, I'm going to start with you guys. I would say jump on the instrument start with the instrument that you're most comfortable with. You don't need extensive advanced knowledge. You just need basic knowledge of an instrument that you're comfortable with playing for various minutes to various hours to various days, depending on how long it's going to take you to write this song. It makes zero sense to be creating a song at the same time as learning an instrument. It just doesn't work. The standard is usually a piano or guitar, but if you don't know how to play those instruments, don't let it discourage you from using the instruments that you have. With that out of the way, you can now start to look to build your hook melody or your hook lick. Now, your hook lick is more like a hook riff as it's played at the end of a bar versus your hook melody, which is constant. I suggest you start with this right after, because this is what's going to get listeners to listen to the song more than once. Once again, I got my iPad down here, so I gotta make sure I'm speaking English. This is the melody that's supposed to catch their attention because it is more likely than not going to be repeated a bunch of times in the song. After you have that down, you move on to building the chorus. You see, the reason why I put this as second and not first is because now that you have that bass melody, you can now piggyback the chorus off of it, or the words of the chorus off of it. Piggybacking off of the melody that you just made is, in my opinion, the easiest way for you to come up with a chorus. And if you are an experienced songwriter, you know that you can use the chorus and the words as its own separate instrument and its own separate melody and counter melody. And I'm curious, how do you guys come up with chorus? Let me know in the comment section. After all that comes the verse. The verse is actually pretty simple for me because there's really only 2 ways to go about it. And that is the easy way or the hard way. And I say hard way, but it's not really hard. It just requires a little bit more work. And literally, I mean a little bit. If you're writing your verse and you're having a little bit of difficulty, think of it like this. The verse is just a simplified version of the chorus that you just created, or follows the same chord progression, but just has less action or less instruments. Now you can alter the chords, of course, and the alteration of the chord in the chord progression by itself is enough to break up and differentiate the different sections of your song. So I definitely suggest it. Now, if you're willing to put in a little more effort, then you can have the verse have its own melody with, once again, limited action, but a whole different progression or maybe a whole different melody. Now, I will say this, you're gonna wanna make sure with all the different melodies and things that you're playing with and toying with that they mesh and gel together, or else you're gonna have a very disconjointed song and you trust me, you don't want that. And last but not least for my musicians is you add instruments. Once again, the sections that have the most actions typically in a song is your chorus section and your bridge section. But don't let that discourage you from playing with adding different instruments in the intro, the outro, or the verses. Took a little while. So for my non-musicians, I have my tablet off to the side again. So if you see me looking, mind your business. Now, for my non-musicians, it's basically the same thing, just with different caveats. So you still want to build your main hook and lick, but because you're not a musician, this is something that you're able to sing. Now, you don't need to be a singer. I am not a singer, but there is a tool out there called Auto-Tune. Don't be afraid to use it. It's basically the same process, something catchy, something that you wouldn't mind singing over and over and over again in the shower, on your way to work, stuck in traffic, things like that. Similar melodies. So, you know, for an example, it could be something like those of you that know, you know, something like that, something super catchy, super simple. And then after that, you build your chorus. Now, because you're not a musician, it may be simplest and easiest for you to just simply piggyback off of that melody and that lick that you just created. Everything's starting to gel. You can now give it to your musicians. Now, this is where things get a little tricky, because you want, because if you are going to get musicians for this song, you need to make sure that you have enough of the song done that musicians can get a general grasp of what it is going on. You want to make sure that the instructions that you give them are very clear and very concise. The worst, you know, at the end of the day, you don't want constant, you know, bickering and constant messaging back and people getting frustrated. Trust me, it's something that if you can stay away from it, you're going to want to stay away from it. After that, it's to simply oversee the project. You know, once you give the clear instructions, you have that perfect melody and that lick. You have that chorus that's piggybacking off of that melody. You've given it to your musicians. It's to now simply oversee it. Now, hopefully, your musicians are in constant contact with you and you're in constant contact with your musicians, and the whole process goes by smoothly. Now, those of you that write to instrumentals, which is primarily what I do. Why did I say primarily like that? Those of you that write to instrumentals, which is primarily what I do. This process is, you know, very different. You see, when you receive the instrumental, you're reacting to the instrumental. What the hell? What? And that is because your entire songwriting process is simply a reaction to the instrumental. So your process first, so let's say you get an instrumental from the client and you get specific instructions in the email or however they sent it to you, and you have like ideas and your creative juices are flowing, only to listen to the instrumental and it goes a completely different way. So what I say first is to just react to the instrumental, give the instrumental a listen and figure out if it is happy or if it's sad. You know, what type of vibe is it giving you? Is it giving you happy tones, bright tones, or sad tones? The next part I would say is to find that chorus section. Now, once again, the chorus is usually the section that just has the most action or the most instruments. So just skim through the instrumental, skim through the beat, find that part that has the most action. 9 times out of 10, that is your chorus. After you find the chorus, you want to build your melody and your lick. So from this point on, it is essentially the same thing as if you were a musician and if you weren't a musician. You find that melody and that lick, whatever it is, then you build the chorus out of that. Once again, you're going to want to piggyback off of that melody that you've created. And at the very end, you want to finish out the sections that are not done. Now, if this is for a client, you want to make sure things like the intro, the outro, and the ad-libs are up to their own personal interpretation. If you are writing for yourself, then you are in complete control of all of those. Now, if you do want me to go over anything, I will be answering all the comments. As always, it's your boy TheCore. If you don't know how to say it, you know how to spell it, and I'm your daily ghostwriter.